I've had to introduce fish and omegas into my life because my brain wasn't functioning properly. And
don't tell that to the vegans. They'll come for you.
They're gonna come for me, but that's okay. I'm used to people coming for me, and it's gonna be that I
come
come out.
Salary.
No, listen. If I give homes. I have 22 animals on my farm in Nashville. I've got 22 in my house in Calabasas. Like, I'm doing what I need to do for the animals.
Can I ask you, were you doing a vegan diet, like meticulous?
The strictest you've ever known.
But were you doing intelligently? Like, were you
did all my
supplementing the right way?
I do all my protein drinks. I've watched every bodybuilder's YouTube. I've watched every bodybuilder's YouTube.
Hey Miley, so I'm your dietitian and I'm seeing your information here and that you are experiencing sort of like brain fog, and your blood markers also show that you are low in omega-3, which, you know, might be causing the brain fog. But I also see here that you actually have a history of doing a multitude of drugs such as Molly, marijuana, especially at developmental times of your life. Oh, and some other drugs here that I'm not even sure how to pronounce. So do you think that maybe these developmental problems you're having might not just be from the lack of omega-3s in your diet, but also the consistent amount of drugs you did at such a very developmental part of your life?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What makes you think that doing Molly and smoking weed and doing all these other different drugs, especially at such a developing age, may have contributed to my brain fog and my brain problems I'm having now? And honestly, why am I even here? Why am I at a dietitian's office? I already watch vegan bodybuilders. Like, don't vegan bodybuilders have all the knowledge on, like, you know, nutrition and solving nutrient deficiencies?
Yeah, I would say that solving your nutritional problems via going to vegan bodybuilders as opposed to actual nutritionists and dietitians probably isn't a good idea. Like, did any of those vegan bodybuilders just recommend that you have an algae-based DHA supplement for your omega-3s? And yeah, I mean, I just don't think that it makes much sense for you to go to a vegan bodybuilder instead of a dietitian. I mean, we have much more.
You know what, honestly, I'm gonna go back to watching vegan bodybuilders for my nutrition advice. I see no reason why I should be here at this dietitian's office. I see no reason why I should be going to an actual nutritionist. Vegan bodybuilders know everything about nutrition. And also, you know, I honestly do enough for the animals. Like, I have 2 farms where I have like a lot of animals and I help them out. So I think just because, you know, I help those animals, that it's justified for me to pay for other animals to be stabbed in the throat and killed. So yeah, I think this makes perfect sense.
Hey, what is up guys? So as you know, and I'm sure you've heard, we have another instance of an ex-vegan, and this time it is Miley Cyrus. So as I say at the beginning of all of my ex-vegan addressing videos, this video is not meant to be a, oh my god, Miley Cyrus, you're no longer vegan. That is not what this video is meant to be. This video is more so to be an analysis of the reason she gave as to why she's no longer vegan, and just a general analysis of the logic that she's giving to sort of justify her act of no longer being vegan. And to the anti-vegans that watch my channel and subscribe for the sake of trolling, you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, look at this, another example of somebody not being vegan anymore, and then the vegan cult coming in and just going crazy. So I'm just going to address this very quickly. If I'm in a cult because I think that it's problematic for a person with such a large following to talk about how she's no longer vegan, which might in turn cause a lot of other people to no longer be vegan or not consider trying veganism, which in turn will cause a series of animals to be abused, then okay, I guess I'm in a cult because I think that it's problematic for a person of large celebrity status to provide a story which might increase the chances of animal abuse occurring on this planet. How culty of me to do such a thing. Now back to the video. I did have a couple of you ask me to make a parody video of this whole thing that happened on the Joe Rogan podcast with Miley Cyrus admitting she's no longer vegan. Now I want this video to be mainly serious. I say mainly serious because, you know, as you saw at the beginning, there is a skit. But yeah, I just want to give my actual analysis of this. The good news is for the people that like my parodies, I am visiting Los Angeles, California, and I'm probably going to film a parody with the great and amazing Stephanie Gerard. She is an animal rights activist and also an amazing actress, and she's told me herself that she can play a very great Miley Cyrus. So we will probably be filming an amazing parody in Los Angeles sometime in late November, so stay tuned for that. All right, let's get to the actual video.
And I've had to introduce fish and omegas into my life because my brain wasn't functioning properly.
So Miley starts off by saying she had to introduce fish and omega-3s back into her diet. Now I think she actually meant that she needed to consume fish for omega-3s for her actual diet. So although there is data to support omega-3 fats helping with cognitive function, I think it's also important to take into account Miley Cyrus's incessant drug use in her life as another contributor to her deteriorating cognitive function. And I think it's also important to note that she did a lot of these drugs at developmental times of her life. It's also just funny to me how her drug use was even mentioned in this podcast, and not once did Joe make the connection that maybe it could have at the very least been contributory to her cognitive problems. But then the second second she brings up veganism, Joe was like, oh yeah, that could be it. The vegan lifestyle just doesn't work for everyone, you know?
That's where I'm at.
There's a lot of people that function really well with that, but some people, everybody's different. You know, we all have different ancestors, and our ancestors come from different parts of the world. And, you know, I don't know if the blood type thing is accurate, but some people really believe that.
So here's just another great example of Joe's bias against vegans. Now, back to omega-3s. So we all know there is such thing as vegan sources of omega-3s, and probably the most direct source of omega-3s is an algae-based DHA supplement. Some people will say these supplements are expensive, but of course, to somebody as wealthy as Miley, this isn't an issue. Miley going back to specifically fish is also interesting because she actually admitted in the past that the intelligence of her fish, which she observed, was one of the things that contributed to her becoming an actual vegan.
I'm a vegan, but the reason that I kind of started this was because I had a fish that was highly intelligent. When I would come through the door, and I'm also highly stoned, but I would come through the door and this blowfish would go to the side and get excited, and I would, you know, like my pig, my animals are very food oriented, so the love comes from the food giving, and I would always go give him his shrimps and all that stuff, and he really knew who I was. He really got excited when I was home, and one day,
cannibal fish.
And one day, yes, and one day I ran into, you know, I went to a sushi restaurant with a few of my friends, and they were serving blowfish, and I thought, you know, this is an intelligent animal.
She even has a song called Pablo the Blowfish, where she says this.
And Pablo the Blowfish, I miss you so much. And Pablo the Blowfish, I miss you so bad. On Saturday night, we all went out to eat, but I could never decide, so someone chose sushi. I got soup and ordered rice, but watching my friends eat my friends ruined my appetite.
This song has even convinced certain people to go vegan themselves. So after hearing all of this, listen to this clip from the Joe Rogan podcast in which Miley Cyrus admitted she's no longer vegan.
I'm not really looking now, I guess, for as much as I'm looking for I want the soul connection, but I'm more about the brain connection. I'm a very logical, I like to have kind of logic in my life because I used to be kind of owned by emotion.
So yeah, Miley self-identifies as somebody who was very logical and has said all these things in the past about how she doesn't think that it's right to kill fish for food, and now she's paying for fish to be killed for food. Very logical. Now, of course, to be fair, she did say these things and write this song in the past, so maybe her position has changed and she's not really contradicting herself in the present, but I think it's something to point out. It's just pretty surreal for somebody to say all these things in the past and then go back. And she didn't just go back to eating animals, she went back to eating fish, which she said is one of the main things that made her become a vegan. So, you know, it'd be one thing if she ate eggs. Obviously, we'd still be surprised that she ate eggs, but she didn't just go back to any animal product. She went back to the animal product, which is derived from the specific animal that made her go vegan in the first place. And of course, she wrote that song, so all of this is just a very weird shocker. Now, similar to what I said about Maddie Limburner and my video on her becoming an ex-vegan, I'm going to be as charitable as possible to Miley and say that maybe Miley is just under the impression genuinely that she requires fish to achieve optimal brain health. Of course, this isn't true, but I'm just trying to be as charitable as possible here. Now, if I was somebody who went vegan for the reasons that Miley stated, I would do whatever I could to avoid supporting an industry which supports the exploitation and killing of the animals that I claim to value so much, in her case, fish. What I would do immediately is go to a plant-based dietitian or nutritionist. I did not find her in the podcast actually saying that she went to a plant-based dietitian or nutritionist, so we don't really know what she did, but given the past behavior of other ex-vegans, I think it's very unlikely that she did go to a plant-based dietitian or nutritionist. Miley also consuming fish again is very interesting when you actually look back at what she has said in the past about the ocean and how much she likes the ocean and the environment and how much she wants to preserve the earth.
So, like, really just promoting, I think, human rights, animal rights, environmental rights by everything that I'm doing, by what I'm wearing, what I'm saying. Yeah. And I think even this is a good time that, you know, for me now, being so in love with the ocean, I think it's even more important for me to talk about environmental rights and us really becoming responsible with the way we treat the planet, because I would love the sky so blue next to you line to be able to stay and it not be like the sky's so black.
So of all the animal products she could have decided to go back to, she decides to eat fish, the animal she loves so much. And we also know that the consumption of fish and commercial fishing is destroying the actual ocean, another thing that she loves so much. Very interesting stuff here, guys. Now, like most ex-vegans, it's likely that she is going to expand to other animal products. So assuming she does, that would be interesting because, as you saw in the previous clip, she has said in the past that she cares about the environment as well. And we all know how environmentally damaging supporting animal agriculture can be, let alone just her individual support of the commercial fishing industry.
Listen, if I give homes, I have 22 animals on my farm in Nashville. I've got 22 in my house in Calabasas. Like, I'm doing what I need to do for the animals.
So this part is very weird to me, and I want to analyze the logic of what she's saying. In what other scenario do we say that, oh, if you take care of specific beings like animals in one scenario, it's morally justified for you to just, you know, pay for those animals to be murdered in another scenario? Like, oh, congratulations, it's great, Miley, that you have, you know, these two farms where you take care of animals, but how does your taking care of those specific animals justify you just paying for innocent fish to be stabbed in the throat for a nutrient which you can get from plants? I don't really think this makes much sense at all. Imagine me saying, hey, you know what? I actually adopted 10 stray dogs the other day, so therefore it's morally justified for me to pay for innocent cats to be murdered and killed to get a nutrient which I can actually get from a plant-based supplement. Doesn't make much sense, right?
Can I ask you, were you doing a vegan diet like meticulous?
The strictest you've ever known.
But were you doing intelligently? Like
I
were you
did all my
supplementing the right way?
I do all my protein drinks. I've watched every bodybuilder's YouTube about how they still
You can't pay attention to those
train.
guys.
That's what I'm saying. All of a sudden, I'm like,
Those
all I
guys
eat
that
is
are-
celery, and like, why are my thighs like fucking huge?
Those
Like,
vegan bodybuilder guys, they're almost all on steroids.
So here, Miley's saying that she did everything properly. She took all the supplements she needed. She had all of her protein drinks and was also watching vegan bodybuilders for nutrition advice. So I have multiple problems here. First, she said to Joe that she's been doing the vegan diet very properly and all that, and has been taking all of her supplements. Now, in the past, I've heard a lot of vegans say this to me where they're like, oh, I'm doing it so properly. And then when I ask them, are you taking D3? Are you taking B12? Are you taking iodine? All these things, they end up saying, oh, you know what, like maybe one of those 3 supplements they aren't actually taking. And of course, I'll also find out sometimes that they're not even eating enough calories to begin with. So in my experience, when I've talked to other people about, oh, like, are you doing a vegan diet correctly? I usually find out that they're actually not. So when people speak this confidently about, doing a vegan diet correctly, in my experience, I really have seen that that is not the actual case. Now, I'm not saying that my past experience with people that do this caused me to come to the conclusion that this is Miley's exact situation. All I'm saying is that in my past, when people speak this confidently about like, I'm doing the vegan diet correctly, they usually are not. So this could be Miley's situation, who really knows? So Miley did say she was taking all the supplements. She didn't really specify what those supplements were. So we don't really know if she was taking the correct supplements. And she also didn't specify if she was eating things like flax seeds, hemp seeds, chia seeds, and all these other different plant foods that give you omega-3s. We really just don't know. She also said at one point that she was having all the protein drinks, implying that, like protein drinks are like a sort of essential thing for a vegan diet. They're really not. You can get all the protein you need from just foods. And Miley saying this kind of implies to me that, she might not really know in general what she's talking about when it comes to nutrition. It's just a very misguided thing to say, and it's kind of a surprise that she would say it too after being vegan for so long. Now I'm going to be using this protein drink point to segue into my next point, which is about how she was like, oh, I've been watching all of these vegan bodybuilders. So when it comes to nutritional science and solving nutritional deficiencies, even as a vegan bodybuilder myself, I would say that it isn't the most reasonable thing to do to go to a vegan bodybuilder to get nutritional advice for a deficiency you are experiencing. Instead, you should be going to a dietitian. Vegan bodybuilders do provide nutritional advice, but really the nutritional advice usually has to do with things like how to get optimal muscle, optimal strength, and things like that, just how to really optimize your protein intake and calorie intake. I could be a vegan bodybuilder who consumes around 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. I could be getting all my protein in. I could be performing very well physically, have a lot of muscle, while also not supplementing with B12, iodine, or D3, and be deficient in those nutrients. So this is just one example of someone who can be a vegan bodybuilder who provides good nutritional advice in relation to, how to build muscle, how to build strength, but really doesn't know what they're talking about when it comes to getting in your micronutrients. Now, I understand that I myself am just a vegan bodybuilder and into fitness and have general ideas about health, so don't take my word for it, but I do my research. I do try to be as updated as possible on the latest nutritional science. Nutritional science is one of my big interests. So usually when I give health advice to people, I always say like, this is what I think you should do. What I'm saying is based on the research that I've done, but you should go to your dietitian or nutritionist. They probably know way more than me. Now, at the end of this clip, Joe Rogan says, oh, all those vegan bodybuilders are on steroids.
Those vegan bodybuilder guys, they're almost all on steroids.
So although this video is primarily on Miley Cyrus, I can't not critique Joe, everybody's favorite anti-vegan. So I'm not really sure which specific vegan bodybuilders he is talking about when it comes to, oh, that vegan bodybuilder is on steroids. But yeah, this is a great example of Joe's bias towards vegans just coming out. I really wonder if Miley were saying something like, oh, I've been actually watching all these non-vegan bodybuilders for nutrition advice, if, Joe Rogan would say this. I'm not really sure, but I think it's likely that he wouldn't, given his bias against vegans.
Well, and they're different bodies too. Some people, I have good friends that are vegan, and they're fine on it. My friend John Joseph, he's been vegan for like 30 years.
That's why I think Nate Diaz, I was stoked, was a vegetarian.
Vegetarian. No, he eats
at one
fish.
point, or a pescatarian. That seems what I like to do.
Fish. Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
There's a lot of people that function really well with that, but some people everybody's different. We all have different ancestors, and our ancestors come from different parts of the world. And I don't know if the blood type thing is accurate, but some people really believe that.
So even though James Wilkes, the creator of the Game Changers documentary, came onto Joe Rogan's podcast and absolutely destroyed Chris Kresser in a debate on vegan nutrition, Joe Rogan is still here saying, oh, you know what, honestly, not everybody could be vegan. So even though James Wilks, with a lot of actual science and data, convinced Joe Rogan that a vegan diet, if properly planned, is adequate for all stages of life, Joe Rogan is still here saying, oh, you know what, honestly, the vegan diet, it's not really for everyone, I don't really know. And as per usual, you know, when Joe Rogan makes a claim against veganism, he did not provide a reference to defend the claim that not everybody could be a vegan. Now, I understand that Joe Rogan is just casually talking to Miley Cyrus and they're kind of just chilling back and like talking. So I don't really expect him to like whip out a meta-analysis, you know, defending his claim. Obviously I don't, but I think that even if he had the time to defend his claim, he wouldn't provide the reference because when he has had time in the past to defend his claims against veganism when it comes to nutrition, he really has never provided an actual reference, at least to my knowledge.
So this is another thing that I like about seeing the brain is I try to eat for my brain type and not my blood type necessarily.
Type.
All right, so this is the part of the video for me that really confirmed that, you know, Miley Cyrus really doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to nutritional science. She started saying she eats for her brain type, and even Joe Rogan himself, the anti-vegan, was like, what the f?
But just seriously, get it in your head. Anytime someone gives you a hard time about being strong, you're not a bad person. Just because you're strong, just because you don't cry as easy as you used to, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
I'm learning
it's perspective. That's all it is. You're not a bad, you look at all these fucking animals you have.
Yeah.
How could you be a bad person if you love animals that
Dude,
much?
So a little later in the video, when they're not talking about veganism, Joe Rogan and Miley Cyrus start talking about the fact that she's been negatively judged in the past and currently for being a very strong-minded person in her personal relationship. And I just thought it was so funny that Joe Rogan at this point was like, oh, how could you be such a bad person when you love animals and help all these animals so much? I honestly just find it really funny that we live in a world where somebody can openly say 8 minutes ago, yeah, I just started paying for fish to be mutilated for a nutrient that I can get from plants. And then the other person, Joe in this case, is just like, yeah, you love animals. This is the world we live in, and hopefully one day we won't live in a world where the common sense idea that you can't love animals while paying for them to be killed for food isn't so foreign to the average person. And two more things before I end this video. So I saw this post from PETA. I'm not totally sure if it's true, and that wasn't even a shot at PETA. I just don't know what to believe when it comes to these quote posts. But if Miley actually said, I'd rather eat dirt before I eat an animal, I'm really wondering how much dirt she ate before deciding to start killing and eating fish again. And the second thing is that on Twitter, I actually found this post, which was in response to my post announcing that Miley is no longer vegan, which reads, Freely called this a few weeks ago. Some girl who works at a restaurant near where Miley lives apparently DM'd Freely and told her that Miley has been ordering omelets with goat cheese and salads with chicken, and I don't want to believe it, but now I think it's probably true. So assuming this is true, we have confirmation that Miley isn't just supporting the commercial fishing industry, but animal agriculture in general, which is all the bit ironic because of what she said in the past of like, oh my gosh, I love the ocean, I want to save the planet, blah, 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 blah. But hey, this is all okay because she has 2 farms where she's helping different animals, so, you know, it's morally justified for her to, you know, help those animals while at the same time paying for other animals to be stabbed in the throat, have their lives taken, be exploited and killed, and just be commodified in general. Makes a lot of sense. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. I think that honestly, we should stop worshiping these celebrities and these celebrity vegans because most of them end up doing this and it's just like, and I understand that Miley was someone who really everyone thought wouldn't do this because she's actually talked about animal rights in the past and the environment and all this stuff. But here we are. She's now no longer vegan, so really, I'm not really sure who you can trust. I'm not really sure which, you know, vegan celebrities are the legit ones. So just don't really attach too much to these people and like idolize them. I mean, you can idolize me, that's fine, but you know, I'm just kidding. But just, you know, yeah, just don't idolize people in general because you really don't know what's going on in their heads and, you know, it's just, yeah. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you support my content and want to support me on Patreon, the link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.